Okay, guys, well, welcome to our conference lesson for today. My name is Alistair, and I will be presenting our lesson for today, which is all about question tags. Okay, how to use them confidently in speech. So we have our lesson agenda. Number 1, how to use question tags. Number 2, using them with different verbs and tenses. Number 3, how to use them confidently in speech. And number 4, our summary. Well, let's start with our first point on that agenda, how to use question tags. Okay, so I'm going to read through this twice. Have a listen and have a translate if you wish to as well. So we add question tags to the end of statements to turn them into questions. They are used in spoken language, especially when we want to check something is true or invite people to agree with us. So we add question tags to the end of statements to turn them into questions. They are used in spoken language, especially when we want to check something is true, to confirm something, or invite people to agree with us. Okay, let's have a look. The clause and positive phrases. Okay, so we add a clause in the form of a question at the end of a sentence. If the main part of the sentence is positive, we usually add a negative question tag. It's a bit early, isn't it? It's a bit early, isn't it? It's positive, isn't it? Negative. Negative phrases. So if the main part is negative, we usually add a positive question tag. For example, Mum isn't in trouble, is she? Okay, so we need to find balance between the main phrase and the tag question. We need to find balance. If the main clause is positive, the tag is negative. If the main clause is negative, the tag is positive. Using them with different verbs and tenses. Okay. This is where it can get complicated, because we need to think about what verb to use in a tag in English. If there is an auxiliary verb, a modal verb, or the verb to be in the main clause, we use that verb in the question tag. So we need to think about what verb to use in the tag. If there is an auxiliary, a modal verb, or the verb to be in the main clause, we use that verb in the question tag. Let's think about auxiliary verbs. Okay, so if there is an auxiliary verb in the statement, we use it to form the question tag. Number 1, I don't need to finish this today, do I? Number 2, James is working on that, isn't he? Number 3, your parents have retired, haven't they? Okay, let's read through those again. I don't need to finish this today, do I? James is working on that, isn't he? Your parents have retired, haven't they? Now let's think about the verb to do. So if there is another main verb, we use do in the correct form, as we would with normal questions and negatives. Here we use don't, doesn't, or didn't. I think she might be getting a bit old for this sort of travelling. Don't you? We told you not to drive in the outback on your own, didn't we? And then we have the verb to be. So if the verb in the statement is to be, in the present simple or past simple, in this case we use to be. The bus stop is, or the bus stops over there, isn't it? None of those customers were happy, were they? And modal verbs. Okay, so if the verb in the statement is a modal verb, here we use the modal verb to make the question tag. They could hear me, couldn't they? You wouldn't tell anyone, will you? They could hear me, couldn't they? You won't tell anyone, will you? Okay, and a note on the verb to be, I am. If the main verb or auxiliary verb in the statement is am, the positive question tag is am I? I'm never on time. Am I? Now we can see here that never acts as a negative word, so the tag is positive. Am I? I'm never on time. Am I? Never acts as a negative word. There are other negative words like nobody and nothing that also create a positive tag. For example, there is nothing better than a sunny day, is there? Nobody helped you today, did they? Okay, the corresponding negative, the corresponding tag subject for nobody is they. Well, let's continue with to be, I am. So we use aren't I instead of the more logical am't I if we do want to make a negative tag. I'm next in queue, aren't I? I'm next in the queue, aren't I? We don't say am't I. It doesn't exist. We use aren't I. Well, we've got some advanced tips. Let's have a look at some of these. So pronouns used with question tags and nouns are not used. For example, Ram is going to Delhi, isn't he? We don't say Ram is going to Delhi, isn't Ram? No. Ram is going to Delhi, isn't he? Number 2, if the sentence's subject is a personal pronoun, question tags contain the same personal pronoun. They play, don't they? If a sentence contains this, there, that, those, these in subject form, then the question tag subject would be according to reported speech rules. Okay, there is a bird, isn't there? Okay, so for example, this and that would correspond to it. These and those would correspond to they. This and that singular. These and those plural. Well, let's have a look at how we can use them confidently in speech. So where is the stress in question tags when we speak? It's on the verb, and the intonation is usually falling. Unless the speaker isn't sure about some kind of factual information, then it's rising. So it's on the verb, and the intonation is usually falling. Unless the speaker isn't sure about some kind of factual information, then it's rising. Okay. You're from Beijing, aren't you? Falling intonation means you're fairly sure. You're from Beijing, aren't you? Now, if I change the intonation, you're from Beijing, aren't you? The rising intonation means you're not very sure and want the other person to confirm the information. You're from Beijing, aren't you? You're from Beijing, aren't you? Slight difference in intonation gives a slight difference in meaning and comprehension. Well, let's think about some situations to use tag questions. Situations to use tag questions. So number 1, very common, to confirm information. Example, imagine you are in a meeting. You want to ensure everyone understands and agrees on the topic being discussed. You could say, we're meeting again next Tuesday at 9 a.m, aren't we? Okay, so you want to ensure everyone understands and agrees. You could say, we're meeting again next Tuesday at 9 a.m, aren't we? We can also use them to seek agreement. So number 2, to seek agreement. For example, at lunch together, this pizza is delicious, isn't it? Okay, raising the intonation to try and get a response. This pizza is delicious, isn't it? Number 3, we can also use tag questions to soften a statement. Instead of claiming you don't understand, you could say, you do understand, don't you? So instead of claiming you don't understand, you could say, you do understand, don't you? A nice way to soften a statement. And number 4, to add emphasis. For example, if you want to convince someone that your solution is the best, you could say, our solution is the most efficient one, isn't it? Our solution is the most efficient one, isn't it? And number 5, positive statements with positive question tags to express interest, anger, and surprise. She's going ahead with her decision, isn't she? So they are moving to Italy, are they? She's going ahead with her decision, is she? So they are moving to Italy, are they? Okay. Okay. Well, let's have a look at our summary then. So, to create a question tag, follow these simple steps. Number 1, identify the main verb and subject of the statement. Number 2, choose the appropriate auxiliary verb to match the tense, voice, and mood of the statement. Number 3, negate the auxiliary verb if the statement is positive, okay, or make it positive if the statement is negative. So once again, with these these simple steps, identify the main verb and subject of the statement, choose the appropriate auxiliary verb to match the tense, voice, and mood of the statement, negate the auxiliary verb if the statement is positive, or make it positive if the statement is negative. Okay, so a couple more steps to go through here. Number 4, add the subject pronoun that corresponds to the subject of the statement. Number 5, attach the question tag to the end of the statement using a comma. Okay, so number 4 again. Add the subject pronoun that corresponds to the subject of the statement at the end. Number 5, attach the question tag to the end of a statement using a comma. Question tags are a fun and easy way to make your English sound more natural. So next time you're speaking English, try using a few and see how it goes. So question tags are a fun and easy way to make your English sound more natural, aren't they? So next time you're speaking English, try using a few and see how it goes. Well, we have got a little mini quiz to do before we finish today. Okay, so this is a participation exercise for the chat. Okay, so we've got 8 sentences here. We want to add the tag question. So it's an opportunity for you guys to have a think. Okay, well, we've got some answers coming in already. So number 1, you speak English very well. Number 2, they've been in London for years. Number 3, it's going to rain tomorrow. Number 4, Mark doesn't play tennis. Number 5, I'm late. Number 6, they flew to Malta. Number 7, you don't need my help. Number 8, it won't cost too much. Okay, well, let's have a little think. Okay, so number 1, you speak English very well. Okay, now the verb speak. Okay, this is in the present simple. Now it's also positive. Now speak, it forms questions normally and negatives with the verb to do. So you speak English very well, don't you? Number 2, they've been living in London for years. Now, they've is short for they have. This is the present perfect. They have been living in London for years. Haven't they? Number 3, it's going to rain tomorrow. So it is going to rain tomorrow. Isn't it? Great. Number 4, Mark doesn't play tennis. Okay, well, we've got a negative statement there. So we've got the verb doesn't. So it becomes does he. Mark doesn't play tennis. Does he? Do he? Doesn't quite conjugate. Does he? Let's have a look at number 5. I'm late. Aren't I? I am late. So yes, we don't say amn't. We say aren't I. Great, well done. And number 6, they flew to Malta. Okay, now this is in the past. They flew. Now, flew is a verb that would form its questions and negatives with do, and in the past that's did. Now, they flew is positive, so they flew to Malta. Didn't they? Number 7, you don't need my help. Okay, so don't. This is the negative in the present simple. Do you? Well done. Good. So you don't need my help, do you? And then the last one, number 8. It won't cost too much. Okay, so won't is the negative of will. So we correspond it with it as well. It won't cost too much, will it? Fantastic. Okay, well, let's have a look at those completed. There they are. Okay, so well done, guys. It's good to have a practice with those. Now, we are coming towards the end of our conference lesson. Let's have a look at our final screen. So on behalf of everyone at Cercle de Langues, thank you ever so much for participating in today's conference lesson for our question tags. I hope to see you all again next week. Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Alice, it's possible